like to call this commission meeting to order. I'd like to welcome all those that are visiting and are here. So see many familiar faces as well. So grateful for the time that you have here. So first item, well, yes, the second item is the approval of the May 10th minutes. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll move to approve.
Second. All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. For those that are here, this is an opportunity for any public comment for items that are not on the agenda. If there are items on the agenda, then we'll address those and provide opportunities when we come to those items. Yes, if you want to come up.
You go ahead.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay.
For items not on the agenda, if you just want to state your name.
I'm Sue Crockrow,
Yeah.
and I'm representing City Park Pool Back to the Future. First of all, I wanted to thank Julie and Jeff and the City Council members who have met with members of our steering committee to listen to our user-focused vision, and they've also offered us some most excellent.
Sorry.
It is on the agenda? Oh,
No, we
I
forgot
got
to
to start the timer, so.
You got about 30 seconds free.
Well, this isn't going to take 3 minutes. I've
Okay.
already timed it, so
Okay,
we're good.
great.
Thanks.
Okay.
Sorry.
Sorry
We
about
have
that.
this down by now,
I'm
right?
a good public engager. I time myself at home. Anyway, the people that we've met with have offered us some good advice in public engagement, which I also appreciate. So our members have been thinking about the public outreach meeting that Parks and Rec staff is planning in phase 2 if council decides to go ahead and rebuild City Park. And Brad Barker referred to it as an open house in his council presentation on June 20th. We have a suggestion regarding its format that we think would benefit the community and bolster the integrity of the public engagement process. Here it is. We're imagining a meeting with breakout groups of community members paired with Parks and Rec Commission members and staff members and design team members. Each group would select a facilitator and a recorder and discuss a common set of guiding questions. For example, an interesting starter question might be, what do you think makes City Park Pool special? What is the essence of the facility? Subsequent questions could focus more directly on user and design issues. After a predetermined amount of discussion time, a spokesperson from each table could share salient points with the group at large. The advantages of this format are: 1, community members would have the opportunity to hear one another's ideas about the needs of a new pool. 2, community members would feel heard, that they have participated in the process in an authentic way. And 3, staff and consultants would have the opportunity to hear community ideas in a setting that has allowed dialogue, thus better informing the design process. If the process works, we could have another one following the presentation of the 3 pool designs. I'm contacting you or speaking to you about this now rather than waiting until September, because I know that phase 2 plans will get quickly locked into place and it would be too late to give input regarding public engagement. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes. Great, appreciate it. We will be using a timer.
Yes, I timed myself too.
You're all getting to be pros.
My name's Ann Stapleton, and I'd like to welcome the Commissioners McPherson, Brogier, I'm probably mispronouncing it next time. I'd also like to thank Gabe for his help this past week, and always cheerful attitude, and Jenna, hardworking and excellent lifeguard. I'm here because I'm a solution-oriented person. The challenge is that there really is no problem with REL Pool. Yet for the past 19 months, administrators have only allowed access to REL Pool in limited hours, currently Monday through Friday at 2.75 to our period, plus Saturday till noon and Sunday evening. Thus, I'd like to remind you that REL Pool is a treasure. And I'd like to offer solutions to many problems created by the current muster schedule. First, REL is beloved by Iowa Cityans, the 1,100 who signed documents last summer supporting the maintenance and improvement of the pool and pool post-closure. The survey respondents and the Gather Here Recreation Facilities and Programs Master Plan, who ranked aquatics #1 above all other program enrollments in the period reported and preferred downtown central location of the REL's accessibility, and the consistently robust population that uses REL when permitted. I've swum at REL for 37 years, yes, I'm old. It has always been very popular, and I or other swimmers have had to wait for lane multiple times this summer. Most recently today, when at noon there were 21 swimmers in the 6-lane pool. Second, I'd like to offer a simple solution to problems caused by the enclosed shortage. Limited access to REL means no downtown swimming for folks after traditional work shifts, including families and children. Solution, open REL to the same hours as Mercer, including afternoons. Mercer closes for swim meets, which leaves no indoor pool open. Solution, open REL for the same hours as Mercer, including afternoons. Different standards apply to REL than to Mercer. Lanes lie empty at Mercer, 8 today when I stopped by after leaving a filled capacity REL. Yet no threatened closure or cut hours at Mercer. Solution, open REL, the same hours as Mercer. Children need to take lessons and practice important swim skills but cannot tolerate Mercer school temps. Solution, open REL for the same hours as Mercer. The numbers provided by staff in your packets don't equate to the actual number of people in the pool at given points in time. Check next month's numbers to my observation of 21 pool users at noon today. Solution, don't base future decisions about limiting hours or closing the pool based on the numbers in your packets. Thank you so much for listening, and please remember all 3 pools are jewels.
That was actually an agenda item, so we didn't stop you, but that's actually for
But I
later.
didn't want to
So
talk about fall. I specifically did not look back on history, so thank you so much, though. I did take that into consideration.
All right, any other public comment?
Yes.
Is it related to?
is it related to Robert A. Lee? Because we
Of
can wait.
course.
We'll do that during our
No.
public comment.
It's related to Robert E. Lee, but it's not an agenda item.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Karen Crana from Iowa City, and I'm here to talk about an issue that I think we all have in common, which is that we want every child in Iowa City to learn how to swim, to know how to swim. And the department and I share that goal, but I'm concerned that the department is missing key opportunities to achieve that goal. When you walk into Robert A. Lee, there's no indication that Parks and Rec offers swim lessons to children. There's not one flyer, there's not one sign. I swim a lot at the family swim nights on Sundays and Saturdays. There are so many children who are enjoying the water in life jackets. They love the water, they can't swim a stroke. They need to know how to swim for when the life vests aren't available. One way that that can happen is if the availability of swimming lessons were publicized. You could have easels, you could have signage, you could send emails. I have 2 school-aged children who are in the system, who have taken swim lessons. I've never gotten one email from Parks and Rec about swim lessons for my boys. I have gotten it from other Parks and Rec departments. So my question is, if really the commission wants every child to know how to swim, why isn't the commission taking all the steps it could take to publicize this? You have to know who to ask, you have to be able to get online, you have to use ActiveNet, which is a pain. You can have a table on family swim nights. You could approach parents and say, your kid is wearing their vest. How would you like to have swim lessons? There are so many things you can do. Last week on Saturday, there was an article in the New York Times about drowning deaths. Drowning deaths are generally lower, but still high for children of color because they don't have swim lessons. This is something this commission, this department could address. So I'm asking you to offer more swim lessons. One thing that I hear sometimes is that the swim lessons are filled up immediately. Wasn't true last March when I was coming to address this body, but there was a quorum, and I have signups that will show preschool and level 2 openings. And it's not true now. There are openings in level 4, 5, and 6. And that's because kids are taking the early swim lessons but not persisting to the point of water safety and where they might even become members of swim teams or lifeguards. So what I'm asking, publicize your great swim lessons. All my kids have loved them, I've loved them. They're a jewel, they're a gem. Thank you for doing it, and let everybody know about it. Thank you.
Appreciate thoughts. If there's no other public comment at this time, we'll move to item number 4, and we'll turn some time over to Julie.
Okay, so I'm going to actually be introducing Matt Idle, who's going to do the presentation, our assistant rec superintendent. But for the information of commission and those here tonight, I just want you to realize this is not typically something that commission actually weighs in on. It's a staff or administrative decision typically. So this isn't something that you are making a recommendation to council on tonight. Council could ask us to do something different, but this is not something typically that has been broached by a commission or council. We added it to the agenda tonight, obviously, because of the amount of public input you've been receiving and we've been receiving. We wanted to get enough chance to get enough time for public input on the item. If you read the staff report, that we are saying that the data doesn't support adding additional hours, but we are looking for you to give advice to staff. It's not a motion second type thing. It's advice from commission to council after you've heard public comment and heard the staff report. Does that make sense to everybody what we're doing in this case? We are thankful for the group that has been consistently interested in this topic. Obviously, they've been here talking with you, providing numbers. In our staff report, you'll notice we've provided both sets of numbers. We've explained many times in the past why the numbers differ. We don't plan to really go into that in detail tonight unless you have specific questions. We would entertain you to use either set of numbers. Our staff recommendation stays the same whether you use numbers provided by the advocate group but we're open to listening to what you have to say after we hear that. So I'll let Matt go ahead.
Wonderful. Again, my name is Matt Idle. I'm the Assistant Recreational Superintendent of Parks and Rec. I think one of the reasons why Julie asked me to be here is because I'm actually the person in charge of the customer service staff at both Robert A. Lee and at Mercer. I'm also the person who actually polls the number for the open swim times. Since September of 2022, the Robert A. Lee's had open hours Monday through Friday, 6:15 to 9 and 11 to 1. Saturdays open swim 6:15 to 3. And then Friday and Sunday is our $2 swims, which is 5 to 8 p.m. Currently at Mercer Park Aquatic Center, we're open Monday through Saturday, 6:15 to 8. Sundays we're open 11:15 to 8. Tuesday and Thursdays now we added 9 to 11 in the mornings and $2 swims. Since October 2022, we have started taking pool attendance numbers. Pool numbers reported include pool pass scans, daily admissions, special events, private reservations, water fitness classes, swim team counts, water certification classes that are open to the public. Some things that are not included are the internal certification classes and in-service trainings that are closed to the general public. This data allows us to see how each facility is being used by the public and the attendance distribution across open hours. I think you guys have in your packet the different graphs.
We have extra copies if anybody can. Okay. Go ahead down here.
This one? There you go. Oh, thank you. So, as you can see from the first graph, it is the Robert A. Lee average daily pool admission from 6:15 until 9 a.m. As you can see, the monthly average has been pretty consistent at 17.9 users. Also on that report is both the numbers from what we got from ActiveNet as well as the numbers and counts submitted by the RALC. The second graph, the Robert A. Lee average daily pool admission from 11 to 1 p.m. You can see the monthly average has increased from 12 to 20.2 users. We have noted that in the Bend during this time versus just the Laplands. The third graph will chart the Mercer Park Aquatic Center average daily attendance from 6 to 9, 9 to 11, and 11 to 1. See that the 6 to 8 or 9 a.m. average is 22.6. The 9 to 11 a.m. has increased from 19 to 26. I think that is due to the $2 swim, where we see a lot of different groups and families actually come in. They're utilizing more of the shallow end. And then we have the 11 to 1 p.m., which has a slight increase from 12 to 17. Based on the data, Julie said the Parks and Rec recommends that the 2023 fall hours are consistent with the fall hours of 2022.
So what we're looking at is we're setting the hours for basically September through the end of winter break. And then we would readjust or re-look at attendance figures generally about November to determine what to do for the next semester's hours. So that's kind of the time frame that we do it by. And we look at it this time of the year because, believe it or not, our brochure deadline was like last week. So we need to have some decisions made to put it in our brochures.
Yeah, are there any questions from the commission or recommendations from the commission?
I'm going to do that and then do public comment.
Oh.
Let's do questions from commission first.
Go for it.
Can you remind me what you said wasn't included in the count?
It's basically like the staff, what's close to the general public, so the counts would be like the certification classes and in-service trainings that are close to the general public.
Okay.
Yeah, the same if a staff member's working in their swimming laps before or after their shift, they wouldn't come through the front counter. So, during the daytime, sometimes we'll see that. We'll see it's one of our staff members that's in the water. They don't get counted in that count.
Rachel, what's your?
So I'm not sure I understood earlier when you were talking about council versus commissioners. So there's nothing to be done. It's the same hours, and this is not a.
So no, it's generally an administrative decision for pool hours. But we brought it to you as a commission member to receive your advice or your recommendations based on the number of. This is obviously a hot topic. We want to make sure that we have an open forum for the public, and then the opportunity for you to. But also want to know that it doesn't completely rest on your shoulders if you don't want it to. That's typically an administrative, but we look to you for the advice on that. Is that clear as mud?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. Yeah. It's not like a development proposal where you make a recommendation to council and it goes on up to council for approval. It's not like that. That's the difference. So your opinions really matter tonight. I'm just letting you know it's not a typical motion second type of idea.
Can you remind us what the limiting factor is that prevent us from being open longer hours? Is it lifeguard?
Well, so when we look at our operations across the pool, we're charged with being efficient and effective with how we're using lifeguards and staffing across the entire aquatics program. So originally the hours were cut back here at Robert E. Lee due to low attendance and an ability to put our resources to where they were being used more. That's the original. So the cost for about 2 hours of time, 2 lifeguards, give or take, staffing is about $75 an hour, or $75 for those 2 hours without any kind of like payroll taxes or any of that sort of, or supervisory stuff. So you're really looking at about a cost of $75 an hour for that 2 hours. At the time the decision was being made, that was for 1 or maybe 0 swimmers. So the idea was that we would trim back the hours knowing that Mercer was open during that time. And there's still opportunity for swimming. 9 to 11 is one of the more difficult times to staff with college staff because it's a popular class time, but that's not the overall limiting factor.
So that was for a 2-hour block for 75. Or is that per
Yeah.
lifeguard or?
So that's for the 2 lifeguards. So their wages are between, I'm going to look to Matt for sure, $15 to $18 an hour generally for a lifeguard per hour. So you have 4 hours of lifeguarding time, so that's per day.
Would that have to be 5 days a week, or could it be Monday, Wednesday, Friday?
It could be either, yeah. I'm
Yeah.
not supposed to actually answer questions for the public, but yeah. Yeah.
Is there anything that would prevent us from opening a couple days a week, 3 days a week, 2 days a week at those extended hours, maybe as a good faith demonstration that we want to make these hours available and use the fall as a test to
It
see?
certainly can be your recommendation. That's what we're here for, is recommendations like that of what you'd like to see. So, yeah.
Do you happen to know if when students, especially when they come back at the start of the school year, is there ever a spike in lifeguards because those college students are coming back? Has there ever been any analytics that can prove that?
I don't have empirical evidence on that, but typically no. And we are really, right about now, I know that the aquatic supervisors are starting to plug in fall schedules. So the students that are either hired or working for us now know their fall schedules. We're plugging that in. Another reason to know what we're going to be asking for. But, yeah.
I mean, regardless of the discrepancy in numbers, let's see, I guess Mitzi Reed and others make the point of the same standard being used for Mercer, since it is 3 times the size. Could you?
Sure. I don't know that the size of the pool is actually something that is important of a consideration. We look at it on more of a granular level of how many, it's still the same number of lifeguards, whether it's the size of Mercer for lap swim or here for lap swim. The decision in the past has been made based on the overall numbers at Mercer and just keeping that consistently open. So, as I mentioned before, our decision making is not particularly one pool versus another. It's how do we provide a service to the public. We also, of course, look at, is it the only game in town for lap swimming? And obviously no, Coralville, North Liberty, the university pool. When we look at our overall recreation services, we have to make choices about where is the most use and the most impact of the staffing and the dollars. And that's what part of the original decision to cut those hours back. As you see in the charts, we've seen some increase in numbers, and we're really glad about that, but not as much as you might think with the amount of publicity it's been getting, and it's been fairly consistent. So that leads to part of our staff recommendation for this. But we're willing to, that's what we're here, is to listen to what you'd like to see done.
Well, and the recommendation is the 6:15 to 1 per hour. What is the?
So the staff recommendation is to keep the hours the same as they are. So 6:15 to 9, 11 to 1 for Robert E. Lee, and then the return of the evening hours when school starts for Friday and Saturday. I hope I said that right. So I think the main, I don't know, and you'll have to ask this during when we have public comment. I don't know that anyone is really looking for the 1 to 5 hours. Those are pretty low at Mercer as well. There's not a lot happening in either pool during the 1 to 5. I really think it's more that 9 to 11 window that is what's more under consideration. I could be wrong, but that's what we were looking more extensively at.
We weren't looking like at after work, like 5 to 7.
Swim lessons take over here at that point, so the pool's actually pretty full.
Oh, I see.
But that's when we do swim lessons. So Mercer is a pool that's open from, except for swim meets, from that early morning until the end of the evening every day of the week. And then City Park adds hours in the summer, obviously.
I wonder, as we go into this, is the review that's coming up specifically focused on just the city park pool? So if we collect data now, it wouldn't necessarily feed into what we ultimately do with our daily
Collect data on
usage.
Yeah, so the data, right now we're just looking at operations here, and really the master plan is not coming back to address the further opening, closing of any of the indoor pools until after after the city park pool is done. So hopefully by the end of 2025, we'll be through city park and ready to come back in a planning process that would be more of a full-on planning, public input process for the future of both of the indoor rec centers, not just the indoor pools. So you're a couple years away from that. In the meantime, we said we would continue to monitor the numbers and make operational changes if warranted. So that's the question you're looking at right now, is simply that operational hours for the fall. Does that make sense?
Any other questions from the commission?
And you'll do public comment
Yeah, we'll do
and come
public
back to
comment,
the
yeah.
commission.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So we'll open it up for public comment on this topic. What's the agenda?
Hi, I'm Karen Crane, I'm still from Iowa City, and I disagree with the recommendation of the department. I have a little graphic for you. Would you mind, Commissioner Westmoreland? Oh, man, okay. And what this graphic shows is using the data that the Parks and Rec department provided. This is the Parks and Rec's own data. It shows how many swimmers are at Robert A. Lee during the times that it's open versus how many swimmers are at Mercer. You'll see, based on the city's own data, there's 2 more swimmers at Mercer. But it has 3 times as much water surface, and I disagree that that's not important. I would say based on the water surface, Mercer is underused. And if any cuts should happen, and I don't think they should, I really don't. I love having open water for everybody to swim in. But it should be Mercer. That's the pool that's underused. And I also disagree that it's cheaper because when Mercer is full, there's more pool service, so don't you need more lifeguards? So I would like to look at this chart and see the difference. One of the things that comes up is the city says, well, the hours will increase. Oh, help yourself. The hours will increase when the numbers increase. And I'd like to know what number are we looking for? I've been asking that for over a year. What's that number when we're going to get the hours that we need to support the swimmers that we have? So we don't know what the target is, and I don't understand why having 2 fewer swimmers justifies cutting the hours. In fact, I think that probably undercounts the number of swimmers, because if you go to Robert E. Lee, where I go, you're not going to start swimming at 8:40 because you're going to get kicked out at 9 o'clock. But you might go to Mercer at 8:40 because you can swim right through to 1 o'clock. So there's a huge difference between the hours and the pool surface, and I just don't think that the city's own numbers support their recommendations. So what I'm asking is for the Robert A. Lee hours to be at least 6:15 to 1 straight through. I also think having it open in the afternoon for people wanting to swim after work would be a great idea. One thing I want to tell you, this is really important. The pool and pad crawl, great idea, but you have it scheduled at Mercer on a day when Mercer's closed. It's scheduled for the 15th, and Mercer's closed on the 15th. So I'm going to pass this around so you can correct that, so you don't have people showing up to the pool and pad crawl at Mercer when it's closed. And that is why you want to have 2 indoor pools.
I'll just address the pool and pad crawl. It's been corrected online, but there are activities happening at Mercer that day, even though the pool is closed. Matt can tell you exactly there's.
Yeah, so we have a bunch of water balloons, we have a bunch of activities. We actually have an inflatable slip and slide that will be staffed by lifeguards. So we all have a couple different water features out there, including the slip and slide. So we will have activities going on out there for people to come to.
Yep. Next for public comment on the topic.
Hi, my name is Mark Cannon, and I really didn't plan to talk, but I just have a question. We have been talking and coming here for months, actually years, and we're still talking about the accuracy of these numbers. So I'm not sure what the role of the commission is, but for those of us, I spend 2 hours a day in that pool 3 days a week. I am so for you, and I know how to count. So there's something radically wrong here. When you hear these numbers aren't accurate that we count, and it's like, there's other people that do this, I just say to the commission, what is your role? Why are we still talking about this? Numbers are numbers, so please take your time, delve into this. You've been given, look at that graph. I mean, that's so clear. They're 3 times size of a pool at Mercer, and 2 more people. Now, there'll be all kinds of people saying, oh, well, that wasn't so last month or whatever, but look at the averages, look at the trends, and then say, why are we still having this conversation? We shouldn't be having it, nor should I have to come and spend 2 hours of my day, 3 days a week counting people. This is crazy. Anyhow, that's just, I'm a little, sorry to be a little emotional about this, but this is craziness. There should be we should be able to say, what are these numbers? How are we deriving them? And there shouldn't be a ton of caveats as to why we don't count them or have the right numbers. We are literally going to the pool and we're doing this. Thank you.
Justin Fishbauer, City. Just a quick question for Matt. So we just pulled up the website for the pool and pan crawl day, and we don't see anything about what you talked about out of Mercer. Should it be shown on the website that that's
The activities.
Right.
It's on the social media page with the event is where I saw it.
So we're just looking at the pool and pan crawl.
Right, and so that's where I know it got updated. I don't know if it's been updated yet on the website.
I know it's on Facebook.
Yeah.
All right. Just wanted to call that to your attention. It might not still be, accurate.
Other additional public comment as far as the topic? Doesn't appear to be, so Julie, if you want to maybe speak to some of the
Sure.
comments and questions that were
I'm
posed.
happy to answer, and then if there's follow-up questions, please let us know. The question about won't it take more lifeguards for the larger surface area? Yes, at a point if the pool is full. But the thing with both of these numbers is neither Mercer or Robert A. Lee is anywhere near capacity at any of these times. So I think that needs to be considered as part of this, is that you have 2 indoor pools that we're trying to operate, neither one reaching anywhere near capacity. So part of our operations looks at, once again, how do we be efficient and effective with the tax dollars that we have? And sometimes that's why decisions are made that one's open and the other's not. There's capacity at both to add. Yes, the 11 to 1 hours have seen an increase. And as we mentioned, though, about 8 to 10 of those folks are in the diving well, having a great time together, doing some kind of aqua fitness type water running. So we not only look at what's the target number. That's hard to land on because we also have to look at how is the water space being used. So when you take the 10 to 20 or the 20 people over that 2-hour time period, and 10 of them are confined but using the diving well, oftentimes this summer we've also seen either families or group homes coming, so you have 2 or 3 that are off to the side doing activities either in the wading pool or the side, and that leaves your 4 or 5 lap swimmers in the middle. So there's definitely capacity throughout the pool for all of those areas to have more people. So it's not such a cut and dried answer. I think if you ever saw a point where you had 3 or 4 people waiting on lap lanes, yeah, that would be a capacity issue based on lap lanes. We haven't seen that at either pool. And that's why it's not a cut and dry, we reach this number and we'll add hours. It's how is the pool space being used during these times? Operationally, does it still meet the needs of the people that are coming, or is there capacity issues on any one of those things? And that's something that staff has to make the call on based on what they're viewing and seeing. So you have the numbers, you have the types of use measured together, if that makes sense. And then the pool and pad crawl, they are correct. There was a mistake made in the announcement of that, but as I said, there's still going to be activities at Mercer when parents and get theirs. The idea is with the pool and pad crawl is that families will visit all of our pools and splash pads within the same day. There'll be activities at each one. So I still think it's a great way. As far as the swimming lessons, we've gone over this before, but I'll hit it again. We do advertise swim lessons. We do have capacity issues with the number of people coming into the classes. Karen, not all of the classes are full, but that's because when we have registration, if there is a level 2 class that has more people that wants in and not as many in level 4, we may indeed move the instructor from level 4 to 11-2. We have people waiting to register as soon as we open up registration. So I just explained, you were listening, but I did just explain why sometimes certain classes aren't full. The overall program is generally filled. And we would love to offer more. That's a space and staffing and larger issue. Trust us, we are 100% between about getting kids to learn how to swim and doing our best to do that. I think that I'll answer any other questions. I just want to say again that we're really open to discussions on this, and I know it's been a very adversarial, and nobody feels worse about that than staff. But we're also entrusted with giving you solid operating decisions as well. So we open it up to you at that point.
Are there additional questions from the commission or recommendations as well?
Can the public ask any more?
Not at this time, so.
The people you talk about that are at Robert A. Lee, like in the deep end, doing like the swimmer aerobic stuff like that, would they be included in like private events, certifications, stuff like that, that doesn't count towards
No.
RL, or those are counted
Those are
towards
counted.
the total? Okay,
Yeah.
got it.
I mean, I don't know, it's my recommendation that we extend the hours, from those 2 hours in the morning, 9 to 11. I think Karen had a good point about not wanting to come at 8:40 if it's going to close at 9. I also think, not to quote Field of Dreams, but if you build it, they will come. So maybe it's worth. I also think that Mark made a good point about the dedication of the people who've come to speak about this over certainly the last year, but obviously before too. And considering, it seems like, I don't know money situation, but it seems like maybe it's worth the tax dollars. And I don't think it's appeasing just a tiny group of people. I think we could be surprised by who else is included in this. Honestly, I would swim. I'd keep wanting to go 9 to 11, but it is too bad, and that's why I brought it up at the last meeting. I mean, it's also, I do think there's something very special about the central location that people have mentioned, and Karen mentioned before. It's a special place. I've never seen more diversity in Iowa City than I have at this rec center. And so I love the merging of people, basketball, contra dancing, the aquatic center, the lifters, and if there's a way to have more opportunities for that. As another person said in the last meeting a while ago, there are not as many bus lines that go to Mercer either. And a lot of these people who are participating in swimming are conscious of gas use, etc., and would be probably inclined to use buses. So that's I do feel this.
I kind of agree. We've been talking a lot of hypotheticals for the past year or so about maybe if we opened it, more people would come. Maybe there's not the demand for it, but it's really easy. In my opinion, I'm not dealing with the budget and staffing issues, but I would suggest opening from 9 to 11 one day a week, maybe opening in the afternoon one day a week, and use that as a baseline. So if there's this pent-up demand to come and swim during those hours, we should see that. That should be reflected in that one day a week, and then we can take that and make decisions for the future. But it sounds like the cash investment required would be not significant. So if it's a staffing issue, if we can make it happen, I want to see that, at least to collect some additional data instead of always kind of butting heads about those hypotheticals. Maybe they will come, maybe they won't come. We can find that out easily enough, it seems.
I think I'll probably be pretty much in line with what you're saying. We're seeing both the staff counts and the Save RIL group counts are increasing as of right now. Going up and up. I think if you extend those hours like we're talking about, just for this fall into the winter break term, use this almost as a trial period. We're extending the hours. How much does attendance go up? What is the count that we're seeing? If the count stays the same or goes down, then great. We can look at that and say there's some solid proof that extending the hours had no effect on the pool in general and the usage of it. But if we see those hours go up, then the argument is there.
Have you thought about what extending the hours would look like? Would you do, have you done like a scenario like, okay, we would just do it 1 day a week, we would do it every day? Because my thought is if you just do it 1 day a week, it's kind of a, you know, you don't almost have to do it every day of the week to get a real good look at what it would look like, just given people's schedules and such.
What we try to do is keep the hours consistent. So, but I would say that could be 5 days a week. It could be a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Tuesday, Thursday. We look to you to give us an idea on that. Doing 1 day a week might be more difficult just in terms of staffing. A lot of class schedules go Monday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Thursday, so that would be another way to probably think about the recommendation in either a 3, a 2, or a 5, if that makes sense.
So hearing a couple different things. So just I think from a consistency standpoint, having it over more would give us a better indication from a statistical viewpoint that way. And so long as we're consistent. So are there methods or ways that we could survey or poll before we decide? Was another option, just for existing swimmers to say, could we send out a survey to say which of these options would be most preferred?
We could go back and look at the counts per day. My sense is Monday, Wednesday, Friday are more than Tuesday, Thursdays, or you could just do all 5 days for that trial period.
Yeah.
That might be the easiest. The timing of doing a survey and turning around and getting it in the brochure at this point is the biggest part of that issue. So.
Could you just have it match Mercer for the trial period? Or?
I would not recommend the afternoon hours.
Right.
I don't think that there's a need in any way, shape, or form for additional afternoon hours. I think to try it for the additional morning hours is much more of a middle road to try that.
So then, as a commission, is it our recommendation to 5 days a week, fill the 9 to 11 hours and keep it open for this trial for the upcoming fall, and then revisit based on the numbers?
Can I ask one more question?
Sure.
So, I don't know exactly what the trial period, like, if it would be like the actual fall, September 21st or December 21st, or, but I guess my question is just like, what budget implication? I know it's only, we said $75 per hour. So.
75 hours per day, approximately. So I'd have to do the math. I think it's worth it for a trial. I don't see that as being the biggest issue there. And actually, starting dates would probably be the Tuesday after Labor Day, whenever that falls, through the beginning of the university's winter break. So I don't know the exact dates of those, but that would be typically what our schedule, what we would schedule by.
So, do I need to repeat that recommendation again, or?
So it sounds like we're at a trial period for that after Labor Day through the beginning of Christmas break of adding the 9 to 11 hours Monday through Friday here at Robert A. Lee, tracking the attendance, so you'll get reports back. Probably, my guess would be the best to look at that at the November meeting of the commission, because you would need, same thing, we'll need a lead time for, Matt's looking at it. That's kind of late for brochure, but I don't think we'd have enough information in October to look at it. So we'd look at what September, October, and early November numbers would look like to know what to do this spring. So
That is the commission's recommendation to staff.
I think that's very doable.
Okay, with that, we'll close item number 4, move on to item number 5, for city staff.
All right, first of all, it is National Parks and Recreation Month. It's been proclaimed here in Iowa City as everywhere else, so happy National Parks and Recreation Month. There is actually a day next week, and I don't know which day it is, which is actually National Parks and Rec Professional Day, if you want to. But we are doing an all-staff, a full-time all-staff training tomorrow, actually over the lunch hour at Mercer. If any of the commission members happen to be nearby and want to stop by, a short training, but more of just a celebration of it being National Parks and Rec Month. We're providing lunch for all the employees. It's a chance to bring everyone, Parks, Rec, Forestry, Cemetery, government buildings together in one location. The mayor's going to come out and do a little thank you to everyone. So first time we've really celebrated that here, and I think it's a good time for us to just take a step back and realize how many people are making this happen here in the city.
Where's that here?
It'll be at Mercer at the outdoor shelter nearest the rec center, shelter number 1. Yeah, from 11:30 to 11 to 12:30. Sorry, Gabe did all the details. I gotta look at Gabe for all the planning. Yeah.
I recommend that if they go, they stay for the 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
We are having a hydrant party, but with this hydrant party, we're actually bringing in the fire department. They are actually, for the first time, going to bring in a big ladder truck and actually spray down. That's tomorrow from 1 to 3. We'll also have Joyce will have the investigation stations there. So if you do come tomorrow, stick around till 1 o'clock so you can see the fire trucks come in and spray all the kids in the neighborhood.
Yeah, it should be a really fun day at Mercer. So project updates, so we'll talk with Mercer first. So Mercer, we're redoing the front entrance and the front driveway. Unfortunately, not going as smoothly. Said with some jest about the concrete work as we had hoped. They are actually having to pull out a number of the panels and re-pour those. Not actually that unusual for a project of this scope. It has to do with getting the right slopes in for ADA standards. So a few more weeks at least, and then some more entry work. So actually through the rest of the summer, we'll have some issues. We do have full access to the building. It's just that the front driveway and the close-up parking spaces aren't available right now. Hunter's Run Park on the far west side is complete. The playground's in, it's open, lots of fun out there. Kiwanis and Happy Hollow projects are both waiting on playground equipment deliveries, so we're a little behind on those. The contractors actually have through October to finish the projects, so we still expect it to be done on time. We had just hoped that there would be more work done to date than there has been on that. Chaddock Green Park, if you haven't had a chance to go out and see that since the renovations last year, take a stop by there. The playground is now complete and open, so the playground's up and running. The restroom is there. We have the elevated accessible garden plots, which are just flourishing, and the gardens themselves are actually very pretty at this time of year, so good time to stop out and see Chaddock. Yeah, and we're a little behind on the North Hickory Hill shelter and restroom. Lead times coming from both the producer of the shelter and the restroom are a little behind. So that one, you haven't seen much action up there. It will still be completed this fall. Once the materials are here, the turnaround time is probably a matter of weeks. They just haven't been able to start on that yet. City Park Pool. We have had consultants come in and out of town over the last week or so, and we have another big meeting with the entire consulting team next week. They've been doing some of their initial testings, and they've done, you may realize we were closed on July 5th, where we were able to shut all the pumps off and watch the water, what it did. It dropped about 5.5 inches over 12 hours, which is a lot more than we'd like to see. Because the week before that, we were closed due to poor air quality, we had actually taken the opportunity during that closure to do the same thing, and the results were the same. So we have 2 different tests that both show that that's kind of the level. They've come in and done what's called dye testing, where they bring in scuba gear and they go around the pool with a little red dye to see where it's leaking. A lot of small leaks and a lot of very larger ones in the diving well. I don't have the full report yet, so I don't want to give you the final report on that, but rest assured that it's not holding water very well at the moment. What that means for the recommendations, we don't know yet. They've also done things like they've asked for all of our accident and incident reports for the last 2 years, which I thought was quite interesting, and they're looking through all of those to see if there's any areas of the pool that have been problematic as far as minor incidents and accidents. They've taken all of our maintenance logs and looking through everything that's been done for major projects there for the last 10 years. So just a lot of background information going back and forth between the 2 groups. It looks like we're on track for either the August 15th or the first meeting in September is when we should have a report back to council, and they'll be able to make a decision about whether to repair or whether to replace City Park. So we'll update you on that when we have an actual date for which council meeting that's going to go to. But there's a lot of behind the scenes work going on to make that happen. And then the final thing on the commission, Dolores Mixon, as you notice, is not here tonight. You will see her in the building, though. She's working for us now. So she resigned from commission to take a paid job with us. So yay, she'll be great working for us, but boo that she has to leave the commission to do that. So there are 2 commission openings right now. One for Boniface has a closing date in the next week or so, with the council hopefully making an appointment in August. And then Dolores just went into the system today, so it'll follow that in a month or 2 for a replacement.
What's she doing?
She's customer service staff for us, yeah. She's great at it, so it'll be good.
All right. Matt?
Yeah, so as Julie mentioned, that it is Parks and Rec Month, so one of the things that the Rec Department is doing for the first time this year, we are actually sponsoring a sporting goods drive. So we are asking residents actually donate slightly used or new sporting goods. You can drop it off at Robert A. Lee City Park Pool or Mercer Park Pool. We'll take them for the entire month, and then at the end of the month, we will actually give them to kids in needs or different neighborhood groups who actually need those. So that's something we're doing this year. I know you guys didn't get a report in June, but we're actually hosting approximately 50 smaller events this summer. Some of the events include the Tuesday night wreck and rolls, the Thursday night parties in the park, the Saturday movie nights. We're doing Water Wednesdays in City Park. We're doing Food Truck Fridays in City Park. We got 3 hydrant parties scheduled, and we're also doing garden parties here. Last Saturday, we just did a beauty track one. That's one of my favorite events, but yeah. And we also participated in the bigger events like Arts Festival, Juneteenth, and Block Party. So it's been a pretty busy summer, and we're going to continue to be busy.
Mention the all-staff training you did too.
We did for the first time, we did an all-staff training last Thursday night at City Park Pool. So we actually shut down both Robert A. Lee and Mercer at 6 o'clock, and everybody went out to City Park Pool where we did icebreakers, got everybody to meet everybody. So it was like our first big part-time all-staff training. We did that until about 8 o'clock, and it was well received.
About 230 part-time staff that work for us in the summer, so getting them all in one place, not including parks and cemetery part-time staff, that's just recreation part-time staff. So.
Pretty big event.
Yeah.
So for the donations, are you looking for any particular?
This is our first year.
Okay.
So the groups that we're probably going to donate to never said anything specific, so we're taking anything from what we
Clean
call
up anything you want.
fishing, T-ball helmets, anything you want. So
And just summer gear, winter gear,
all year.
And rowing machines or no?
Well, it's probably more that we're going to give to neighborhood kids
Okay.
so they can play with it. I don't know if they're going to play with it.
I don't know. I
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so this isn't the time for public comment, Karen, so
It's not a comment, it's a genuine question.
not at this time, so we can follow up with questions after, so we can just do that. So I apologize. As far as chair's report, thank you, Matt, for that. Report that way. From a chair's report, I had the wonderful opportunity to accept the proclamation from the mayor at city council meeting this past on the 20th of June. And so it was a great opportunity. I brought the proclamation as well, so for any of the commission that wanted to see it. So it's a great opportunity just to encourage, and I challenged the city council to get out into a park that they haven't gotten to normally as well. And so that was my invitation to the city council. And so I can pass that around here as well. I'm grateful for the other individuals that came and spoke as well about City Park Pool at the city council meeting, and grateful for their comments that way as well. And so that's it for our chair's report. But now we'll go around if there's any items from the commission. So Rachel, we can start with you. Any items for future agenda?
I spent a lot of time in the cemetery and talked with the folks there who work, and they're big tree people and want to put in the work and realize that it's kind of a arboretum for us. And yeah, and they were saying that there wasn't a lot of budget for extra trees, but if there was, they would love to plant some. There's some oaks that are having their life, and then I saw here that they have to take an ash tree down. Anyway, it's not urgent, but it is one of the most beautiful parks we have. So.
That's great. Thank you. Brian, any items?
I had actually a question, Julie, from your report. You were talking about updates on parks. I know Court Hill Park is going to get a shelter. This was happening last fall.
Yeah. So Court Hill got the new shelter by the playground. There is still plans for a smaller one by the basketball, and that's one that our own staff's going to put in. At this point, I don't think it's going to happen yet this fall. I don't think it's here yet. So, but it would be a smaller shelter right by the basketball court eventually. Yeah, that's still in the works. Just hasn't happened.
Just in the early stage, I'm right near Scott Park. There's a lot of space at Scott Park, some that I feel is a little bit underutilized. I think with how open expansive it is, I think there's an opportunity to add, whether it be a shelter. I know, I'm gonna forget the name of the park over on Benton Street, but they have like a community garden or something over there. I think there's a lot of space to be able to utilize something like that at Scott Park with something like that on the east side. Just off the top of my head, but.
I can answer a little bit of that. The largest open spaces in Scott are actually part of the stormwater management for public works.
And I've seen all that construction going on.
Yeah, so unfortunately, the areas to the east of the playground can have that largest open area with a trail around the outside.
Yes.
It floods when we actually have a regular summer, but we can't put any more structures back in there because it would convey stormwater. Same thing with the larger area on the other side of the dog park. That entire area between Scott Park and the dog park is part of the stormwater system.
Gotcha. So most of Scott Park acts as a reservoir.
Yeah, actually, and so the fields that we have were kind of negotiated, and we're lucky to have those just as a history. I think you're right, though. It does seem like a lot of big open space.
And I will say that it's utilized, that field is utilized fantastic. I know they have like an ultimate frisbee league that goes out there and plays, practices out there all the time. So at least it's, utilized.
Yeah.
Just a comment, Julie and I were talking before the meeting about the pollinator prowl that I'm enjoying so much. If you're not following social media, there's pollinators hidden at, I think, 16 parks around town. You can go and find them and hashtag I see pollinator prowl, I think it is. Yeah. Pollinator park prowl. And I don't know if we're eligible for the prizes, but people can go and find the pollinators, and there's a drawing to win prizes at the end, I think. So that's a fun way to get out and see some of the parks if you haven't seen all of them already. And then also, Aaron, your point about the park and it being stormwater management, and my Greenway, Sycamore Greenway, is stormwater management. So I wonder if that's something that might be a topic for future consideration, maybe all of the stormwater management that happens kind of unseen in the city, that we don't, why is this big open field not being used? Because it's stormwater. What's the Sycamore Greenway? Stormwater management. So something that might be interesting for the commission or the public in general to learn about.
I think that would be great. That's a good idea because you're right, a significant portion of our parks is actually public works, stormwater management that we should talk about.
Can I add one thing on it? So just in the nature of putting in plugs for stuff to check out at the park, I think we were talking about this before, but I don't think we said it during the meeting, that there's a really cool solar system installation along the bike trail in between Court Hill Park and McPherson Park that was a partnership with Willow Bend, and it's really neat. A lot of people are checking it out.
And the planets are out there in almost exactly correct locations for relatively to where they are in the solar system. The last one, and I always forget which is the last planet, Pluto is like just a little off because it's at the edge of the park. So we put it as far out as we could. But yeah, very neat project from Willow, and that the students came to us, and we can't take much credit for it, but it's truly awesome.
Great.
Just have a question about, you were talking about the 4 firms last time that were up for, has one been narrowed down?
Yes, so the lead firm is Williams Architects out of the Chicago area. They are joined by a number of sub-consultants. Councilman Hunziker is the primary aquatic sub-consultant. They're a group out of Kansas City or St. Louis area that does swimming pools pretty much around the Midwestern country. Barry Dunn, who is part of our rec master plan, will be helping with public input if we go through that in phase 2. Hitchcock Design is the landscape architect on the team. They are right now working on the Mercer Athletic Pickleball Tennis Court project for us. And I think I forget the other engineering firm, and they had a leak detection company that came out of Illinois that was here last week. So there's quite a few different sub-consultant groups. We haven't actually met all of them yet. Like I said, they'll be in town next week, but there are a lot of familiar faces from other projects that we've done. Yeah.
All right. Have a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Is it seconded?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye. Adjourn. All right, thank you.